Welcome to Sasamu Show, Los Angeles. Today we have a person visiting us, a young lady, a prominent Garifuna young lady from Belize, Miss Felene Swaso, formerly known as Felene Cayetano. We give you the welcome today, Felene.
Thank you for having me on the Sasamu Show. I'm ready to answer whatever questions you have for me today. I'm really just here for the short time in Los Angeles on maternity leave. And while I'm here, I would like to be of service to my community.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here today. And I would like to know about your involvement, your present involvement in Belize before we talk about your prior involvement here in Los Angeles and also New York, specifically with the Garifuna community. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in Belize right now with you?
Well, in Belize, I am a librarian at the National Heritage Library in Belmopan. What I have done also is to supervise the libraries in Dangriga. And the two libraries, one is in the older part of town and one is in the newer part of town. And both libraries have made some gains on their own, but we would really like to see them progress further and have the community more involved in the different programs that we have there. In Belmopan, what I have done so far is to stabilize the transition that was already taking place before I went there, to have the library go from being in a room in a different library in Belize City to that physical movement into its own space, or a rented space rather, in Belmopan, and consolidate the different special collections there and move towards having them online.
Have you come across any historical books talking about the Garifuna presence specifically in Belize?
Well, a number of books have been out for a while, and I continue to find though information within older documents, cultural studies, let's say, a lot of grassroots studies, dissertations, have a lot of people who went to Belize, found information or gathered information and brought it back up here to the States. And now as these dissertations and theses are being digitized, we have more access to it. Inside the physical collection, we have to do some data mining, if you will. We have to look through the books one by one and then index them in order to let people know what we have and what we do not have.
Okay, and I can say something about Honduras. The government has not made available any archives containing or any information about the arrival of this important ethnical group in Honduras, which is the Garifuna people. And we have tried to find any information of records in their archives dating back to 1797 when the Garifuna people arrived to Honduras, when they were exiled from St. Vincent. And I would like to know, because in Belize we know that the Garinagu arrived there in 1803 and up. So is there any, as far as your knowledge, is there any details, any data in the archives of the country that we might be able to pursue and find?
Well, there are two institutions that deal specifically with documents, older documents, which would be the library and the National Archives. There is a book, there are some rare books inside the National Library's collection, which I have browsed through and have not really found the information that others have been able to pull. I have not gone into the archives to dig through their information, but again, other persons have done so and have found information. And what you would find there are correspondences about the government, about, let's say, the industries that were taking place at that time, specifically cutting wood, mahogany, whatever small trade that they were doing at that time, those things are also mentioned. There are a couple of mentions about slavery, a couple of mentions about establishing the government, this new government that was taking place, but I have not come across anything personally. But I do know that it does exist. Again, it's a matter of going through these old books that are falling apart and getting that information, digitizing it, and providing access to it.
Good, thank you. Now, I'd like to ask you another question now. As far as your interaction, and I know you're not the first one coming from Belize to the United States to get educated, what is the way and how easy or hard it is for a Belizean citizen to come to the U.S. and get educated like you did?
Well, my case is rather different. I came to the States when I was 9.5. So I had been here already for elementary school, then high school, and then to college. Most of my friends there in Belize have found a way of coming to college either through their families having money set aside for them, or they found a scholarship. And I had a lengthy discussion with a librarian from I believe she's from Trinidad. We were speaking about how in the newspaper, it's always advertised, okay, there are scholarships for, let's say, A, B, C, D, E, F, which would be something like law school. It would be something in the social services, different fields, but rarely ever would you find library studies. So people find these scholarships in the newspaper, apply for them, are accepted, and then they're able to go to school. And in that way, if they already have a job, then they're obligated to go back to that job because they might be getting paid. The job might be supporting them in some way as well, along with the scholarship or funding that they're having. And when they return their service, years of service, back to the organization that helped them while they were away in school, they then repay their debt. And also, but what that does is that it limits the amount of scholarships that people are able to get. For example, in my case, I saw for library science, if I wanted to go on and get a PhD, I would have to look at something as far off as Malaysia. I know that Mexico has programs, but again, when you look at the scholarships in the newspaper for Mexico, it does not say library science.
Well, I thought it was a lot easier for anyone to just come over and get educated here. Okay, interesting. Another thing is, I know that while you were studying in the East Coast, you had a strong commitment to intervene with or to participate with the Garifuna community, specifically in the New York area. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, the commitment was there, but the time was not there. I'll be quite honest. I was going to school at the time, going through the master's program at Pratt Institute, and actually it's through Garinet that I was able to network and meet up with Jerry Castro, became close friends with Mirta Arzu and her mother, Mirta Colon. So I got to know the family well, and whatever events were going on, there's a commemoration that happens. I forgot which church it is, but in April, around for April 12th, usually the community gets together and discusses each year the anniversary of our settlement or our exile. And so I was able to connect with more people that way. Before I left New York to go back to Belize, I had a fundraiser. And the fundraiser was well attended, And from the fundraiser, what I did was I solicited funds and books, Garifuna books specifically, for the library, Ignacia Cacho Library in Dangriga. and the Allen Authors Library in Dangriga, but mostly the Allen Authors Library in Dangriga. I was able to gather about 15 quality Garifuna books, and some rare and out of print, in order for the citizens there to be able to appreciate the culture more